She could have been anybody's grandmother.
No indication whatsoever that anyone would have any kind of ill will directed at her.
But she ended up beaten to death in her own bathtub. And a friendly neighborhood became a hotbed of suspicion and fear.
People were very, very scared in that town that this could happen to them.
So how did the attacker get in the house?
There was no way to secure the residence, that there was ongoing construction.
Stanley Gendreau kidnapped a teenage girl and beat her to death.
So did you feel like he was telling the truth?
The court actually imposed, as a part of their parole, could never come back to the town of Little Compton. We had no clear suspects identified within the first 3 to 4 days.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's crime expose takes us to Little Compton, Rhode Island. When you think of this New England shoreline, you might think of miles of rocky beaches dotted with picturesque villages or close-knit communities famous for fresh air and relaxation, but not blood and death.
Little Compton is one of these towns, perched on the Atlantic coast. A nice place to live. But late one spring, the people of Little Compton found out that evil has no boundaries. One Sunday of Memorial Day weekend, Angela Spence Shaw failed to report for work at the local nursery. So a friend stopped by her house to see if anything was wrong. And what she found chilled her to the bone.
The initial caller had said that there was some type of disturbance that had happened at the residence.
I went up the stairs, went past her 2 golden retrievers who were sleeping in the living room, went through her bedroom. When I reached the top of the stairs, I could hear water running.
A hairdryer lay submerged in the bathtub. The bathtub full to the brim, and Angela was lying in the tub, dead.
I got the water turned off, and I saw her. She had only a t-shirt kind of on the top.
Angela Spence Shaw would not be going to work that day or ever again.
She had 2 just gigantic black eyes. Her lip was split. She had blood on her shirt.
The rest of the day's events were a blur. A frantic call to 911, uniformed police officers responding to the house with detectives hot on their heels.
It was clearly evident that a brutal homicide had taken place at the residence of Angela Spence Shaw. There was evidence of severe blood loss and trauma in her bedroom.
There was blood throughout the bedroom area where the victim was found. There was blood on her nightgown. Looked like blood splatter that was on the wall. The bed linens were actually missing. One of the pillowcases was missing.
The crime scene was a nightmare.
There was clearly evidence of blood that had seeped through onto the mattress where Angela slept, and that the room was in disarray. And there was evidence of her being dragged into the bathroom area and placed into the tub.
For Detective Sid Wardell, the case hit close to home. He was born and raised in the small town of 3,500 people.
So I did personally know the victim. You know, just a friendly lady. She would certainly say hello to you if she saw you.
What happened in this house? Who attacked Angela Spence Shaw and why?
This is a beautiful seaside community, really very little or no crime. And why would anyone target this 66-year-old woman who was just living a nice, peaceful life? That just made no sense.
What were your initial thoughts about this case?
It certainly didn't look like that it was any type of a robbery. There was some jewelry and money on a bureau in her bedroom. The rest of the house was not ransacked in any way.
Meanwhile, the medical examiner retrieved the body for an autopsy, and the police went over the crime scene inch by inch.
It's like the CSI type detectives that go in and will process that scene and I believe they spent at least 3 hours combing through the room, the bedroom, trying to come up with evidence.
Because the house was partly obscured from the street, whoever broke in could have come and gone without being seen.
The house was fairly secluded, although there were some houses around it. Her house was set back off the road. There was shrubbery that surrounded it from or protected it from the roadside that was quite high.
It would have been easy, too easy, to break in.
So how did the attacker get in the house?
What was also abundantly clear to us was that there was no way to secure the residence, that there was ongoing construction on her home, that the local contractors working on the home had just recently broken through a doorway area that could not be secured.
In addition to the two men who were renovating the house, possible suspects included, well, just about anyone.
Who else would have been in or around that property? I mean, it's the garbage collectors, neighbors, people that had past criminal histories, any sex offenders, people along that line.
As the hours ticked by, law enforcement pieced together a clearer picture of what happened in the two-bedroom cottage. Angela Spence Shaw, fast asleep in her bed, had been bludgeoned and drowned by an unknown assailant.
The initial information we had, we believe Angela's time of death was sometime around, maybe around 10 p.m. that night.
And buckle up, the investigation into Angela's murder is about to take a darker and even more horrifying turn.
A quiet life, working occasionally at a nursery, and spending time with her family was all that Angela Spence Shaw wanted.
This was an incredibly gentle, kind grandmother in her mid to late 60s, living by herself in a very idyllic community, and she was brutally raped and murdered.
A high-speed police investigation kicked off with an evidence collection and an autopsy. This was a mystery that needed to be solved as soon as possible before someone else in this community met the same fate.
You had, on any varying day, 10 to 25 state police detectives in Little Compton actively working this case.
The legwork included dialing the clock back to see if previous crimes and the people who committed them might be related to the murder of Angela Spence Shaw. There had been a killing decades in the past, and the killer was back in town.
The court actually imposed, as a part of their eventual parole, could never come back to the town of Little Compton.
Stanley Gendreau, the 22-year-old son of a local housekeeper, kidnapped a teenage girl and beat her to death.
The individual that had committed the murder had been infatuated with her, tried to get her to leave the house that evening. She put up a struggle, and he actually hit her over the head with a rock and left her to die. We found out the family lived close by. We ended up talking to the family, and ironically, that individual had also been visiting his family a couple of days prior.
While attempting to locate Stanley Gendreau, investigators took a closer look at the home of Angela Spence Shaw. Her renovation project involved creating a hole in an exterior wall, a new doorway, carved out just 2 days before she was bludgeoned to death.
So in identifying construction workers and other workers, whether they were plumbers, electricians, and everyone else, we found two individuals that were the construction workers who were basically full-time workers at the address. And one of them was Jeremy Motika.
One of the workers had a good alibi and was no longer a suspect. The other contractor, Jeremy Motika, also had an alibi, but could he prove his?
When you interviewed Jeremy Motika, he said he had been out of town.
He had informed us that he had just returned from Falmouth. His then girlfriend's family, I believe, owned a home.
Regarding the night of the murder, what did Motika tell you?
He had stated to us that he had been home, he had been drinking that night, had been drinking with friends. He indicated to us that he was so intoxicated that there was no way he could have driven anywhere. He used neighbors that were underage and said he was drinking with them, smoking some marijuana.
Did you feel like he was telling the truth in the interview?
You expect people to be maybe sweating or shaking or voice cracking. There was none of those signs that raised any suspicions with me, at least, that this person wasn't telling the truth during those initial conversations.
The alibi appeared to check out, but Jeremy's story of drinking himself into a stupor took a direct hit when police tried to verify, believe it or not, whether he had ordered a pizza.
That's where his story started to unravel. He had said that he had had a pizza delivered that night. We went to the location that he had gotten the pizza from, and we had found out that the pizza was delivered the night before. Easily could have been a mistake, but certainly raises a little bit of a flag.
What about other people in their interviews? Did you feel like there were some shaky stories there?
When we had talked to the neighbors, again, underage, their story didn't completely match with him. He had said that he had been with them past midnight. They actually said that they had left his presence earlier in the evening.
Motika was a carpenter by trade, a hard-drinking 23-year-old by day, and possibly a murderer by night. He also, as it turned out, had a criminal record. One example, a weird incident a few years prior in Cape Cod, Massachusetts.
An individual, a female, had gone to her car, and when she went to drive away, Jeremy popped up in the back seat of the car. He was intoxicated. He said that he had gotten into the wrong vehicle. She felt that he was there with some intent to do something. However, she called the police. The story sort of got explained away.
Since Angela Spence Shaw had been found in her bathroom, the police wanted to know how many of their suspects were familiar with that part of the house.
And we asked them, had you ever used the bathroom where the victim had been located?
And what did Jeremy tell you?
In fact, he said he did. He had also said that he had washed himself up in that bathroom.
That sounds a little bit strange. I'm sure it did to you, too. A construction worker going into a house, up to the bedroom on the second floor to use the sink.
We had asked the contractor, workers and others, did they ever use the bathroom inside? Everybody said no. I think there was a porta potty type thing on the premise.
So given these additional details, did Motika's story ever feel genuine?
It all seemed to kind of mesh, the timing, and there was nothing really seemingly suspicious about the way he was behaving.
Once again, Jeremy Motika had evaded the police in the interview room. Maybe he was innocent. The case was not gelling, and the detectives were stumped.
Then the medical examiner jumped in with a critical new piece of information.
Through that autopsy, we learned that she had been sexually assaulted and the perpetrator had left seminal fluid on her body.
So was this the break that police needed to zero in on Angela's killer? The residents of Little Compton needed an answer soon before one of them became the next victim.
I think everybody was fearful. I'm sure they were all locking their doors and doing what they could to protect themselves because this was so random and so out of character for that town.
Who killed Angela Spence Shaw and why? The brutal murder of this beloved grandmother was proving to be a tough case for the police.
We had no clear suspects identified within the first 3 to 4 days. By day 5, 6, you're expanding beyond sort of that local tie to this.
Remember Sidney Gendreau, who had kidnapped and murdered a teenage girl years before? Well, law enforcement finally caught up with him.
It took us a day or so to locate him. He actually found out that we were looking for him, and he turned himself in to us.
Fortunately, pursuing the Gendreau angle turned out to be a dead end.
We conducted a full interview with him. He had a full alibi. I believe that next day we actually had confirmed that alibi, and he no longer was a suspect in our case.
So now what? Nothing else was panning out, and law enforcement was running out of time. Then the medical examiner's office checked in and pointed the case in a new direction. DNA evidence indicating the victim had been raped by her assailant.
The medical examiner had actually recovered DNA, discovered semen within the body of the victim, and that was our number one piece of evidence that we were going to be able to use going forward.
And what was your next move?
Since we had this seminal fluid with a DNA profile, that perhaps we should approach all the people that we knew had access to that home and see if they would consent to a blood draw to match the DNA.
30 people were asked to provide blood for testing, and all 30 said yes, including Jeremy Motika. The lab ran its analysis and revealed that Motika's DNA matched that found in the victim's body. For law enforcement, the path forward was clear. It was time to arrest Jeremy Motika.
I was actually the one that put the handcuffs on him. We placed him in the back of the cruiser. I rode in the back with him. I think one of the telling things at that point with us, he never asked why. He never denied anything. He just went along with us.
It had been 25 days since the murder, and the events of that bloody night were lining up. Jeremy Motika had crept into the home of Angela Spence Shaw, surprised her in her sleep, raped her, beat her into submission, drowned her in the bathtub, and dumped an electric hairdryer into the water just to make sure she was dead.
And I understand that actually, instead of admitting to what he had done, he began spinning wild stories to try and throw you off.
It's almost beyond belief that there was zero reaction emotionally, just telling this wild version of rinsing his genitals off in her shower.
So what else did he try and sell you on?
He was set up some crazy story about how one of my colleagues had obtained his semen at St. Anne's Hospital by giving him a Playboy magazine and asking him to masturbate in the backseat of the car.
A second DNA test confirmed that there was a 1 in 8.9 billion chance that he wasn't the killer.
Jeremy Motika was now behind bars, but justice for the victim took another 2 years. Motika was found guilty of first-degree murder and first-degree sexual assault. The sentence? Life without parole in a maximum security prison.
He never accepted any of the blame or any of the acts that were committed there, the assault, the murder, anything.
DNA evidence proved crucial in a police investigation. With the killer finally in prison, the people of Little Compton could finally breathe again. It has been many years, but the killing of Angela Spence Shaw still haunts this lovely Rhode Island neighborhood.
For Angela's family, friends, and neighbors, the chilling memory of her death is anything but distant. Angela Spence Shaw's story is one about vulnerability. Her house was being renovated and was left open to attack. If you need to stay in your home during renovations, you may need to take additional precautions. Make certain the contractors securely board up temporary openings to prevent unauthorized access. Avoid giving contractors keys or alarm codes. Ensure that exterior lighting is functional and well placed to deter potential intruders. Ideally, stay with a friend or family member or at a hotel until the home renovations are finished and your home is properly secured. Inform trusted neighbors about the renovation work and ask them to keep an eye out for any suspicious activity. Your home should be your safe space, so it's important to fortify it from potential danger. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.